Good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing? This is your friend, Meena Dawani from Destination CEO. I am so excited today. Yeah, I know. I'm always excited. But I'm a little extra excited today because we started multi-streaming and now we're going to stream um, on Facebook as well. So it's going to be Facebook, YouTube, and on LinkedIn. And I realized that a lot of you were not getting alerts when I went live. So I've gone back, instead of using the Destination CEO page, I've gone back to streaming live from my own page. So hopefully now, as you're all connected with me, you'll be able to get the alerts and join me every time I go live with my wonderful guests. Now, what's so special about tonight? Well, it's the first time, and thank you, Sina, if you're watching. Sina suggested that we focus in on specific industries when we bring our mentors. So today we decided to focus in on the banking industry. Been getting a lot of people who are interested in joining the banking world or the financial world, and they're reaching out to me about job search. Many international students who are graduating are interested in getting into the various banks, and we've been bringing a lot of guests and a lot of banks to talk about their hiring strategies. But today I have invited 5 of my mentors, Destination CEO mentors, to tell you all about their story and how to get into those first jobs. But it's not just about getting into those first jobs or getting your foot in the door, but it's also about how do you grow within the organization? What are the different options for you? What are the different streams for you? What are your transferable skills that can get you into the banking industry? And it's not just banks, right? It's the entire banking and finance industry. So it's all about fintechs. So I hope you are joining me today. If you are interested in getting into any of the banks that our Destination CEO mentors are from, today they're going to tell you all about it. So, hey, when they are online, why should I keep talking? Let me bring them on. So, here we are. Hi, Hakeem.
Hi, Meena.
Hello, Anu. Hi, Leo.
Hi.
We have everybody in the house. It's so awesome. Hi, Jay. Hi, Ritesh. How's everybody doing?
You're doing very well. Thank you.
Well, awesome.
Thank you for inviting us.
No, thank you for taking the time out. I know it's absolutely gorgeous outside and you'd rather be outside than in, but thank you for joining and thank you for giving your time and guidance to our viewers out there. And viewers, if you have any questions, please ask. Now's the time. Don't wait. So go for it. Let's start with introductions. I'm going to start with Hakeem. Hakeem, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, what you do?
Hi, Meena. So, well, I've been within the investment banking field for around 10 odd years, around 8 years actually. And after, of course, I moved here, as Meena knows, the initial part was bumpy. But thereafter, of course, after that, I joined Societe Generale. And yes, I'm currently operating there in a role extremely similar to what I do back home, and extremely similar in terms of the role, in terms of the position, and in terms of the overall responsibilities. So, yeah, that's about me.
Hakeem, I do want to ask you, since you did your introduction so quick, you arrived in Canada not too long ago.
No. So I arrived in Canada in July. So it's precisely been around a year since I reached here. And
happy first anniversary.
Thank you. And yes, and I began work in December.
Yes.
So
and you actually moved, because the first time I met you was at an event when you were job searching in November or October.
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 Yeah.
And you were in Toronto at that time, and right now you are in
In Montreal. So yes,
Montreal.
that was another change which I took over and I moved to Montreal. So as in when I came in, job search was progressing, and often the way things work here, if you have a correct approach, you can actually land up with multiple jobs at the same time. So that's actually what happened with me when I was looking around. It was actually a point where I actually had multiple offers from different banks in similar roles. And then, of course, I chose this particular one. It was a shift to Montreal, but of course, I really wanted to take it.
That's brilliant. And you're the vice president at this
Yes,
point.
that's right. So I operate as the vice president at Societe Generally on the credit side.
So it's almost a myth that if you were in a senior level in your own country, I'm assuming that was India.
Yes, that's right.
So you were at a senior level in India, and you came here. You were able to find a senior level job, so you didn't really have to step down as much.
No, it's similar to the role that I had back in India. So that's what I keep telling people. Many people reach out to me and I keep telling them that it depends on the way you go about your search, the roles, and the way you adapt to the work culture here. The way you adapt to the work culture, the way you see, you'll have to mold yourself in a particular way to make yourself adaptable to the market here. So it all basically boils down to that. The processes that you followed back there might not really work here. You need to learn those tricks quickly and then get into it. You don't really need to do anything exceptional in terms of your process. You just need to tweak it. Because, see, at the end of the day, the way I see banking, say whether it's in India, whether it's hello, am I
Yeah.
audible? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So if you look at banking, the way it operates here or the way it operates in any geography, it's predominantly the same. The only thing is there are certain minor differences which you need to change yourself to. You need to first understand those differences. That is a problem which many people don't really seem to understand. The minute you get those, you figure out the differences, you address those differences, and then you go about. And then, of course, you will really land something quite similar to what you've been doing. It's not really all that difficult. It's actually a myth where people don't get roles. So I've actually even known people who have landed exceptional roles similar to mine, even when they were not in Canada.
Brilliant.
So it's really a myth that you cannot get it. It all just comes down to your strategy and the way you follow, the path you follow.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I know we'll get into it much more in a little bit. But let's move on to Anu. Hi, Anu. How are you today?
Hi. I'm very good. Thank you.
Awesome. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So, I am basically, I've been here in Canada for 15 years now, and I am agile. I'm basically I'm an innovative leader who's well versed in agile delivery, with experience leading, motivating, and coaching teams, self-organizing teams, uh, that are and supporting them for adaptation to the principles, agile principles and framework. I've been working in the IT group for the banks for last 12 years. I worked for RBC, then for BMO, and right now I'm working with IG Financial. I started my career as a QA analyst and a QA lead, and then transitioned into the role of a Scrum Master. So right now I'm working with IG Financials as a Scrum Master, and I'm here helping you all just to tell you what I am and how I can help you in any way. Like, reach out to me if you want me any help in a job search or any kind of support in your resume, critiquing, anything like that.
You better watch what you say. There might be too many requests, Anu.
It's okay. You're there. Everybody is welcome. I've gone through the same situation. So, somebody came up and they helped me out. So I'm more than happy to help if I can help in any way.
Awesome. 15 years ago, you came to Canada, and how did you start your career? How did you get your first job?
Yeah, that's a very interesting story. And when I started looking for a job, I actually didn't know how that's going to happen. This is way back in 2007. And I started sending my resumes to the job postings with no response.
Ah,
Then I just decided, like, I thought, it's not working out. I had family to support, I had my bills to pay. Me and my husband, we landed in Canada without any jobs. I had two boys, both of them going to school. So it was a big responsibility. So nothing was happening. So one fine day, I got him in the morning and I decided to start a cold calling. So I just went to the job sites, and wherever I found a recruiter's name or even the recruiting agencies, I just called the agency and talked about and asked them about the posting on for that particular job posting and asked them who I could connect to. So out of 10 people who I called, two people responded, two recruiters responded, and then I just went with them. And I was just maybe I was fortunate. I went for my first interview and I got selected to come in for the second interview and the third interview, and I was hired. So I for my first job, I'll say that it was really easy for me. I didn't realize the pain that everyone goes through in looking for a job because it was smooth sailing for me. But then subsequently, when I started looking for a job, and specifically when I was looking for my job that I'm in today, that was a long process.
that's very interesting. And we'll get to that. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you. And Ritesh, welcome. This is your first time streaming again
Yes,
with us.
thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm currently working with Scotiabank, came from teaching and research background back in India, and then moving to Canada in 2014 was a big step. That is called adapt to change, I always say, and also face the challenges and embrace the change, whatever comes in your way. And I decided to make my career in banking industry. So I have applied for like different roles, but unfortunately, because of no banking experience in India, I was not hired. And then I use another way because I always feel that there are different approach and different ways that you can try to get the job into the. So I try to apply through job agency because I have observed doing my research that they do have a good connection with the banks or like different institutions. So I go for a different approach since I didn't have an experience in banking. I do have a lot of skills that I can apply. Unfortunately, not the banking experience so called, and no Canadian experience. So then I thought that, okay, let me go for the agency. I started from the job agency and eventually 2 or 3 different places I worked with CIBC, with State Street, like 2 big organizations, I would say, in North America. And then I have applied through the job agency in Scotiabank. I mean, basically through job agency, they placed me in Scotiabank. And then eventually I got hired on a contract by Scotiabank and then got permanent and then again moved to another role and also expecting a new role to come in on my way as a promotion. So that's my like career path that I started with, which is I think unique than a lot of people that I have heard and I listen to. So I'm really happy to be part of the bank with the Scotiabank, which has just been declared as one of the top banks in Chile and in.
This is so exciting, Ritesh. Thank you for sharing.
That was very. I used to be in the teaching and research and helping the students as a mentor. So that's what brought me that I decided that the struggle I had will not be the same struggle that people will have. So I try to help them to go ahead properly and to give them kind of those views or those ideas through which they can, help themselves easily and able to adjust into the market as fast as possible.
This is brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. It's
Thank you.
it's really interesting to know your stories because we constantly hear we need to have Canadian experience, we need to start from ground level, we need to do this, and you guys proved that it doesn't have to be that tough. It is very possible. So thank you
Yeah.
for that. And now, like I love to call him hero. So Jay, welcome. First time streaming as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jay, who you are, and what do you do?
Thank you so much, Meena. Thank you so much for the lovely and kind words that you've been using today. You're awesome. And this is an inspiring conversation with Hakeem and Anu and Ritesh too. So my journey is also a mixture of all these three stories that we just heard. To give you a brief background, I'm originally a banker from India. I have a decade-long experience in front-end roles in collections and business banking. But I got to Canada last year, which was a life-changing experience. And as Hakeem also really mentioned very correctly and very appropriately, is that there were some aspects of banking which you just need to get understand. You just need to get it absorbed in yourself, and you just need to align yourself with them. And that's exactly what even I did. Just like Anu, even I started reaching out to a lot of networking events with all the top five are extremely warm and welcoming. They hold networking seminars and conferences and online conferences on a monthly basis. So I try to extend and understand what exactly is required in my abilities and skills to be absorbed by the North American banking industry. So, most exciting and dynamic phase has been that of a mortgage advisor, which I got just after 2 months of landing in Canada. All thanks to this beautiful organization, CIBC, they could understand my dreams, ambitions, as well as my lending expertise, and they could give me this opportunity. It is just last year who's actually my current manager and life coach, who helped me grow and groom myself personally and professionally. In order to thank him and thank God, I would like to help other newcomers and job seekers also get growing as fast as they can.
Oh, trust me, you are doing a lot already, and I'm sure that your journey will continue with helping with a lot more people. And you yourself were mentored, right? You joined a mentoring program. You got the help of a mentoring coach, and you were able to start. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And who doesn't know Leo? So hey, Leo. I think you've been with us on the stream, but you've never really introduced yourself. We heard your story on how you got started from HR. So this is your opportunity.
So it's time to tell everyone my secrets.
Yes, I think so.
And by the way, like, it's very amazing. Like the other mentors, like really give like a very positive experience to the job seekers, because I so far I heard like that's a very good story. Like someone just came to Canada in a short time and got the job, right? So it's really encouraging. Because today the theme is about banking. Actually, I did work for 2 different banks before. I came to Canada like quite a long time ago, like almost more for 20 years. I came here like to study. So I came with my family. So I didn't have to like find a job right away when I land. So after I finished my education, like university education in Canada, after that I worked at one of the bank very short period of time, about few months. How did I get the job? Is I just at that time, long time ago, I just have to go to the agencies. At that time, I have to print like 100 of the copies. I have to give it to them, right? That kind of time. So I got it. So I start to work there for a few months. I'm doing the car finance. So I just doing some paperwork and some transaction thing. And that's it for the banking, one bank. And then it's kind of interesting. After I studied the HR certificate, I did work at the OLG for a short time. It's a mat leave coverage, so it's 4 months. And then because that person came back, so I lost my job. But at that time, I post my resume online. I was searching for HR opportunities, but for some reason, like one of the agency called me like, "Hey, we have position, like, you know what, is not HR, but like it's kind of interesting in accounts payable. Can you believe that? Like, Leo worked in the accounts payable before? Yes, I did. I worked there for 6 months. So because what they're looking for at that time, not really doing the accounting, because from the HR system I work, I have some experience with the PeopleSoft. So they need someone who know that that software. That's why they look at me, my resume, so they pick me. So I work for CIBC for about 6 months, and then I decided to find another opportunities in HR. So I worked short time in the banking. So that's kind of interesting.
It is really interesting, and never worked in a bank. Probably don't know how things work, but let's start from the beginning. We've heard some great stories today, and all of you are mentors with Destination CEO, and all of you have started your career at the level where you wanted to start, and many of you through an agency. So it does talk about the power of working with employment agencies, and even though Leo had some experience working at a bank, currently works for an agency, a social enterprise that places people in the bank. So really excited about this. I'd like to start our conversations with mindset. So I know, Jay, you talked about what the mindset of a person should be as they start with the whole interview and the job search process. So let's talk a little bit about it. Just wanted to suggest, if you have a mic or if you have a headset, if you don't mind bearing, because there's a lot of echo in the background as you speak.
Oh, can you hear me now clearly?
We can, but there's a lot of echo. So if you had a headset, it might be easier. Just
okay, give me a minute. Yeah,
but if not, let's go ahead. So let's talk about your topic. You wanted to talk about mindset. Mindset as people start their job search process.
Yeah. So I seriously feel what has happened in today's times is that millennials, and all of us in fact, are extremely spoiled for choice. Okay, they're used to having any kind of information, or even if you're in an unknown territory and you want to get anywhere, we have all the apps to make our lives convenient. But when it comes to a career in banking and finance, I want people to understand that now you're stepping behind the scenes. So you need to have the right mindset to deliver that. You're now stepping in a role to make others' lives a lot more convenient, smoother, and faster. And that's what you need the right mindset for. I strongly feel as a person who's excited to join this industry, like all of us, I believe you need to have at least 5 elements of a right mindset. Firstly, you need to have the hunger to grow. You need to have that desire to grow as much as you want to, because this is the only industry which gives you the beautiful opportunity to start at the lowest level and grow as fast as you want to. Secondly, you need to be a lot more flexible, like learning from just Hakeem. He came to Toronto, but he was happy to move to Montreal to get a brilliant opportunity. Similarly, going by my own journey, I moved from business banking to the world of mortgages. And now I'm so happy I took this challenge. So flexibility to work across different domains, to work across different arenas is extremely important. As Hakeem also mentioned, you really need to be quick with unlearning and relearning new things in life. And that's a very important element. Thirdly, you need to be extremely sincere with relationship building. A banking career is not where you can just sit down for a day long on your laptop, design some codes, and that's it. No, you need to grow with your team. You need to grow with your clients. You need to build relationship with your communities, because this is a long-term career. Fourth is the willingness to work extremely hard. If you may have the hunger, but let me tell you, in banking, there are no shortcuts to success. You cannot get out of the hard way. If something requires to be done, it needs to be done. Just because it is mentioned as a nice to have, that doesn't mean you need not have it. You must have everything that needs to get things done. And fifth, which is actually a little funny, but you should not get bored of reading. You just need to keep reading a lot and be abreast with all the latest information so you can help yourself, help your clients, and help your communities grow. Over to you, Meena.
Brilliant, thank you. What do your mentors think? And I mean, Jay covered so many points. We're like, okay, let's write it down. But hey, I have it recorded. What do you guys think? Let's start with Hakim. Hakim, what's your opinion?
I agree with Jay, where you need to change yourself extremely quickly. You need to adapt to various situations, and you need to do that, of course, in a limited period of time. The other thing is, of course, reading. Yes, like within banking, so even though people say that it can be procedural or say it can be very operational, but you're wrong. You actually need to continue reading, and you need to read. You need to actually have a quest and just that insight that you just want to read. So if you do that, only that's something which will help you. The other point which I would look at, say, within banking is, yes, what I would recommend newcomers do is, as and when you come in, you first map your strengths and your weaknesses. You identify certain branches or certain segments within banking which exceptionally excite you. And then it's better if you channelize your energies more towards getting into those particular roles or those particular segments or those particular roles which you're really passionate about. And you need to move towards those.
And I'm sure our professor loves to read. So, Professor Ritesh, you wanted to talk about aptitude, attitude, perseverance. So this falls in your stream of things where we talked about aptitude, but what are your thoughts? Oh, you're on mute. Hang on a second.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. So I personally believe that attitude and aptitude is like the two pillars of a human. So sometimes people have a correct aptitude but incorrect attitude, or vice versa. That's where most of the people had a trouble. So I would say that the way we stand and we want to stay firm, we need to have first of all a good attitude. Attitude is mostly covered even by Jay, saying that hunger to grow. That is a part of the attitude, that you need to be able to learn, adjust. And also I can connect a little bit with Anu, that coming from, say, waterfall methodology to the agile methodology, that is growing in step by step. And that's how I think so the banks work, rather than just push yourself one at a time and boom, you're good to go. Every time you need to look into it, you need to ask for the feedback, you need to go to the proactively, go to your manager, have one-on-one chat, try to understand each other properly, and then try to make a plan for your career growth. So that attitude is first, is the willingness to learn and the hunger to learn, extreme hunger, I would say. Second is that it also covers kind of a flexibility that you should have, which also Jay covered, that adaptability, how even Hakim did, moving from here, like kind of a, I would say, moving out of the comfort zone and going to a kind of the zone that he may not be liked to, or his family may not be agree to, but he decided that no, it's my career path and I want to go for it. So he take an initiative, take the step, be proactive, and decided that I want to go for the job in Montreal, even though it's far from Toronto, which is hub for him maybe. The second one is the aptitude. It's like your liking, what you are strong about. That's what even Hakim just now covered. For the SWOT, like a strength, weakness, opportunity, threats, you should know yourself better. I highly recommend that you should read. In terms of reading, for that is a Dare to Lead by Brown. I don't know whether people have heard this book. It's a very beautiful book, and I always like to read and listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of books, and this is one of my favorites in terms of the leadership, that you need to have that aptitude also to read, to go for it, and to use your skills to grow within the organization. In terms of perseverance, since because of the COVID right now, the situation is very like tricky. A lot of banks have frozen the jobs. Even I can see in my bank, and also I have heard from my friends working in different banks that they have a kind of a frozen job posting, or they are getting the like job posting out. However, the banks are not hiring in a way they were because of the budgetary constraints and less amount and more burden on mortgage and everything. So basically, here is where the relationship skills, and that's what Joy also mentioned very nicely, networking and relationship building skills that come into picture, that still lot of jobs are there and still lot of jobs are hidden. I always say that 2% jobs are only posted, the rest 98 percentage uh, are hidden, unfortunately. And that's where your relationship building comes into the picture. And when you try to prove yourself, you automatically shows your perseverance, because in what I have heard that people work in a banking industry in India back, they get a very fast promotion. But in Canada, the way the promotion work is not the similar, because people start comparing that, oh, in India I got promoted in these many months or years or whatever. The same way it happens in Canada. Yes, it will, but initially you need to give time to learn about vocabulary, some of the terminologies. That's what Hakeem also rightly mentioned. That's what your managers, your reporting person, your supervisor note in you, and you need to be proactive and go forward and ask for the feedback. And in terms of reading, I would say again, a very nicely said, you need to read the manuals of your bank, and you always get an option to improve on there. So I would say that you should be having those perseverance to be there at one point, learn properly, talk to your manager, and then try to ask for some extra projects that you can do along with your current job. And along with that, when you prove that you are also ready for the next stage, that's where you can hit the hammer and say, hey, here is what I'm looking for, and here is what my skills are. Can I move forward for this role? Most of the times, as far as the culture, as Leo said that he wants to know, in my banking, in my like team, and in my like big department, that's the culture that you need to learn within the organization and try to grow and show your skills, ask for more and more feedback, ask for learning opportunity, and that's where you get more and more opportunity to show your attitude, because you show willingness to learn, you show that you are adept to change, you challenge your status quo, that is what you have, and now you are going for the next change. Also, you show your aptitude, that what your strengths are, and also being perseverance, you be on their job, and then you start to learn and try to grow within the organization.
That's wow. So that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that insight for Scotiabank, of course. I know, and you've been agile. You've been, you've been pivoting and changing your strategies. So let's hear your thoughts.
So I'll just give a little bit of background from where I started and how I grew into working for banks. So I started working with a fintech company, and this was more related to pricing the derivatives for all asset classes, and it was a small company developing a niche product for institutional investment. That's where my career started, and that's where I started learning about finance, and I started learning about core financial terms, and it was a really good experience for me. But again, I was on the IT side, and I was from the QA side. So I got to learn a lot of technology, and I got to learn a lot of various phases of software development cycle. So I started my career in Canada as a senior QA analyst, and then in the same company, within a year, I was promoted to be a QA lead, and I had a team of almost 10 QAs, including the co-ops. We used to get co-ops from Waterloo. So that was an interesting journey, learning the technology, learning business, and at the same time working with the Waterloo co-ops, grooming them, training them. So it was an interesting journey. So, and plus this company grew from 100 people to 250 people. The most interesting part about this company was at that time, there were around 250 people, and out of 250 people we had more than 100 PhDs, and most of them were quants. So whatever I am today and whatever I've learned, the background of that is coming from that company. So after that, I moved into RBC again on the wealth management. Again, I was on the QA side. I grew into the role of a QA program manager and then progressed into the role of a scrum master. This was an interesting journey too, because banking is is an altogether different setup. It's not like the fintech company that I was working with. Here we had on one program or one project, we were interfacing with almost 10 to 15 systems, upstream systems, downstream systems. So I think if there are people on this call who are from technology, they would probably understand and relate to what I'm saying. So there are multiple feeds, multiple interfaces. So there are a lot of things that I learned there. So the important part about IT in banking is about understanding how the systems are interfacing and interacting. The other part about working in the IT in banking is it's a very process oriented system. It's a CMM level 4. And then CMM level 4 is basically the maturity level. And it's how you go to the software development cycles. It's a very, very strongly process oriented. And I know we do get frustrated because of the processes around. But the flip side of it is that there is so much of compliance and audit issues and firewall issues. So we need to protect the client's privacy and information. So we had those issues. So we have to go through those processes. So it's interesting in the terms that I learned all that creation and interaction. And then after a few years, like in around 2015, I started feeling like when we started the bank, our group started going through the transformation. I started working on the agile programs, and that's what drove me on my interest to be a scrum master. So right now I switched jobs and then I'm as a scrum master today at IG Financials.
So I know if I was graduating from, because I teach at Humber and a lot of my students want to start working with banks and they're all from the tech field, what would be the first thing that you would suggest as a new grad from the tech field? If I wanted to work in the bank, what would be the first step I should take?
So banks have a lot of co-op opportunities and internship opportunities. So the best way of getting your foot into the door as a fresh graduate is to apply for those positions. Because I know our students at Humber are really smart and they are really good. I taught at Humber, so I can totally relate to them. So the only thing is that they just need to be there, apply for those positions. And once you get selected, you get a foot in the door. And I've always seen the returning candidates, returning students, and I've always seen like more than 70 to 80% of the students get converted into a full-time jobs. So I worked with a few myself, and I had worked with 2, and we did convert them into full-time positions. In fact, we kind of insisted that we become a full-time position with us. So because it's an important skill set, we don't want to lose the knowledge that we train them for a period of time. And trust me, I've worked with a fintech company and I worked with banks. Banks are more possessive, or they are more inclined about retaining the talent and knowledge, because for them it's a big overhead in training the person, ramping up the resource or ramping up your people to understand their processes and system. It's a lot of investment. So that helps a lot.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Leo, you were going to say something?
Well, I think some mentors, they mentioned about their attitude, their mindset, right? And I think for the job seekers, maybe I can add something a little more is about the expectation. I know many job seekers, when they apply to different jobs or from in different organizations, of course, the process can be disappointing. And so I think sometimes just manage your expectation is like maybe expect, okay, of course, today is a very good mentor, like they have a quite a positive stories. And job search sometimes can be difficult. So maybe don't expect like, oh, I set something like too optimistic. Like, okay, I set a timeline for myself. I have to find a job like within 2 months because I heard like Hakeem and Jay, they have a very good experience. Then I just copy that. I will follow that route. But everyone has a different path. And of course, different situation and of course different organization. Set the goal like a reasonable goal, keep it positive, manage the expectation, and then won't hit too hard like if you face the roadblock, right? That's what I say.
Very true. So Anu mentioned about getting into co-ops and or internships, and sometimes it's not possible because Anu, as you and I both taught in the same program, we don't have the internship component, so we don't qualify for, our students don't qualify for that. So let's say entry-level jobs. Most of you got your first jobs through agencies. Would you recommend new graduates register with employment agencies? So I know that we send a lot of new grads to Career Edge because Leo's there, and we know that it's a phenomenal agency, but there are other employment agencies, as Leo's agency is for newcomers and new grads, but there are other agencies that people should register with. So what are your thoughts? Hakeem will ask you, how did...
So, see, you can register with an agency, but it would often be a function of the role you're applying to. Now, there are certain segments within banking which, from where other, a bank will recruit very heavily from agencies or through agencies. And there'll be certain roles which a bank will refrain from doing so. So it often depends on what exactly the role you're targeting. You need to complete some research on that, and maybe then, so there would not really be a black and white answer for it. It would often be a function of the role that you're applying to. But one parameter which I often feel newcomers get confused with is, say, terminologies, which I'd like to delve slightly into it. But what
Please.
I've seen is, so see, when I landed here, and I met up some people at certain banks, like some people at RPC, some people at TD, and I just asked them to like run through my resume. And these were senior people. What they told me is that, okay, because I'm from India, I can understand what you're trying to communicate through your resume, or say certain terminologies which you've used. Like I'll just give you an example. Where say in India, we used a term called consortium banking. But in Canada, if you tell a person consortium banking, he won't understand what you're saying. Here it will be known as agency banking. So this is just one of the various parameters or differences that are there. So, initially what I would recommend any newcomer or any person who's actually trying to look, you first try to research, you try to meet people, especially in the field, and, get your resume in order. Because see, these parameters, now say, it was just in my resume and I could correct it. But say if you sit for an interview, even say if you get an interview call, and there if you're going to use wrong terms, like see, people are not really going to tell you that, okay, what does this term mean? They often assume that you were doing something different, which is not very relevant. But of course, it can actually be totally different where what you're doing was exactly what they're looking for. So that is one parameter which I really tell people to look at. Like when people approach me, I go through the resumes and actually tell them, what, these things don't make sense. You'll first try to understand how things work here, how terminologies are slightly different. And the second thing is where people often go wrong is, say with regards to segments, where they don't really, now say in certain countries, banking is segmented in different ways. Where say here you'll have retail banking, then you have small businesses, then you have mid-market, then you have corporate. So people are often confused about that. Like they just say, okay, if I just want to get into a bank, so whatever role it is, I'm going to just go for it, irrespective of my prior experience. So if people can just research that correctly, target correctly, because say here people are willing to recruit you, but they only want to ensure that the match is actually there. What you've done earlier, is that in sync with what you're applying to? if you can just target the job correctly, prove to them that, okay, the task that you're looking for, I have completed those before, I have the skill sets that you're looking for, and you're home.
So understanding the business terminology within the banking industry, Canadian banking industry, is really important. Thank you for bringing that up. You know, there have been talks about changing titles. So if you were, you know, there are various titles in different parts of the world that may not be the right titles in Canada.
Yes.
And I was at a HR conference, an HR webinar, where it was pointed out that if your title was, let's say, a director, but that title does not exist, and that could be a managerial title in Canada, you should still keep a director title, because if you change it, there is a background check that happens, and then it shows that you lied on your resume. So I'd like to ask all of you, actually, because each of you represent a different bank, to say how accurate is that, and can we change the lingo, the language on our resume, which includes the different titles?
Yeah.
So we'll start.
So I can.
Yeah, sure.
I can take that. So, for example, on my resume, and I've seen in a couple of resume that is coming on the IT side, and it's for the resume who's coming from an international background. So, what they do is they say one is the title and the other is the role. So when you say I had a title of a director, but my role was a Scrum Master, so you know that explains what you were doing. So then the title becomes irrelevant, and then you're not lying on your resume as well. You're also projecting your right experience, and you get hired for being a Scrum Master, but then you're not lying also, because I've seen that here, even in the banks, and there's a title, for example, a title, a director on the IT side could be a VP on the business side. So it's different. A manager on the IT side could be a director on the business side. So titles are more around. It's also a projection about that person and what he's doing than about the role. So that's what I've seen, and that's what I did on my resume when I came here to Canada for the first time.
Mm-hmm. And you know, Ritesh, Leo, do you guys have any other opinions? Ritesh, what would you suggest? Sorry.
Yeah. So I think the question is very nice. Like, so when we apply for the roles, sometimes we have to make sure that we may not be overqualified, and we should not undersell ourselves also. So we have to sometimes play around, trick around. I have seen the people change their job titles to kind of the job titles that they are looking for on the other side, that is in the job description. So say, for example, if someone has done the kind of the front office role somewhere, and also into the sales. So, but in India, maybe, for example, or in other country, it is called to be something else. But here it's called to be financial advisor or customer service representative. So then they can change that role and say customer service representative as a heading. And thereafter, in the next line, they can put that work in the capacity of ABC, whatever. So then sometimes what happens that when the recruiters look into a resume or HR, then they may not be able to understand what actually you have done, because they may have only I think 8 or 10 seconds to skim your resume. So they may not be able to like understand what was your last title or the role that you have worked for. So instead of having that confusion, rather clarify with that, and when there is an interview, we can say that our role was ABC, and in that role I have done ABC, D, E, F, whatever things, and that actually what is currently relevant to my job title that I'm applying for. So in that way, they can be able to give that or clarify that to the in the interview to the HR or the recruiter.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yes, Jay? Oh, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. I cannot hear you, but I can read your lips.
Jay, I think you've muted your mic.
No. We cannot hear you.
So something, I just wanted to add something on what just Ritesh said is around the job titles and the roles. So what I've seen in the past is that when there are two ways, like when we apply for a job, one is through your networking and you get your resume directly on the hiring manager's desk table, and the other is through the recruiters that goes through the ATS system. So that's two separate processes. When it goes to the hiring manager's table, it becomes easier to explain that what was your title and what was your role. But when it goes to the tracking system, that's what is the tricky part. If you don't have the right title on it, your resume gets dropped. It doesn't even get picked up. So, it doesn't matter when it is going to the hiring manager. You get an opportunity to talk to your resume. So I think when we are writing a resume, we may want to see the two different aspects of submitting your resume. And then when it's going to the hiring manager's table, you don't have to be too concerned about the keywords, the search keywords on your resume. Whereas when it is going to the tracking system, that becomes a bigger requirement. So that's how I've seen it in the past.
It's very insightful. I
I
think Jay is having.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there's a lot of echo because I think it requires you to wear a headset.
Okay, yeah, I can get a headset, no worries.
Okay.
But if you can hear me, then I just pitch in for one point.
Yes, please.
Value,
Yes.
saying that, to be very honest, top 5 are extremely warm and welcoming. So I would sincerely request newcomers and especially job seekers to first try to build rapport with someone or like offhand, and then they can probably discuss their ambitions, their dreams, and their expertise, and take guidance, and thereafter submit the application, because you should make your application count and not just apply for the sake of it.
Yeah, very valid. I think it's really valid.
And Jay was saying something very interesting earlier today when we were having a conversation. Even though it's COVID, and this has come up numerous times before, I've discussed this with my students as well, when it came to banking, is if you're into retail banking and you're interested in building relationships, the first step is to actually go into the bank and meet with your banking provider. So why don't you talk a little bit about that for our viewers, so that when the recorded version is played, it makes more sense on the different ways. So we've discussed how we should apply the ATS system with employment agencies through networking, and your option about actually going into the banks. So
yes. So to be very honest, I needed this information as to someone to show me the real picture of myself. So I actually took the liberty to walk into a CIBC banking center much before I was actually hired. And a very nice gentleman actually spent some time with me. I didn't just walk in and started talking about myself. I first walked in, requested for an appointment. If they are available now, great. If not, I can come back. And another thing I would recommend is that when you walk into a banking center, think of it as an opportunity to present yourself, to present how well you are able to communicate yourself, not just verbally, but also in terms of your appearance. Because your hunger really shows the way you speak, the way you show the kind of expertise that you built over your period of time, or it may be 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. But take these opportunities seriously, because top 5 welcome anyone throughout their doors, and they're happy to have a discussion with you. It may be regarding your banking, it may be regarding your career, but please come in. And thereafter, you can get an understanding as to what is exactly required. What does the role require? If you're starting at a bare minimum level at the branch, that will be the exact location where you will be asked to serve customers. You need to understand what is really required from you, and who else can tell you directly? The branch person out there. So I would sincerely request you to come and take an understanding from your future colleagues and see what exactly are you lacking, or what you need to work on to bag the opportunity.
Brilliant. Thank you. Leo, you were saying sorry, and then Anu had something.
Yeah, I just want to add about the agency, right? Because I know some banks, they only work with one or two agencies. So if you really want to target certain banks, do some research and maybe talk to some people working there, and then they can tell you, oh, actually this bank, they only use this agency. Then you have a better chance that you want to get into that bank, then have a higher chance, right? So do research and talk to the people, like how they can get into, and then it's no harm to work for the agency, because you never know, because you get in the foot in the door. If you keep doing networking, you meet the right people, you have the right opportunities. That's the way to have a career in that bank. And also, I think if you work like a short term, even as a short term assignment at the bank, you gain some, you learn some culture about that organization. You already know how the works looks like in that organization. You already have some advantage if you apply for their positions.
Yeah. Very valid.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anu, you wanted to add in something to that?
Oh, you can say.
I just wanted to add around the bank IT in banking. So I would say that IT in banking, if you're from the IT side and you want to get into the banking field, it's the easiest, in the sense that you have the right skill sets, and if you are technically strong, that's what the bank technology IT in the bank is looking for. It's we don't need to have a lot of Canadian experience. We don't need to have a lot of understanding of the terminologies. We don't need to have all that background for us to get into a bank. And it's like learning on the job is what is happening in the banks. We are really need there's a there's a really shortage of skill sets on the IT sector in the bank. And if you are have experience on the cloud system, artificial intelligence, and robotic process automation, this is where all the requirements are for the banking sector. And it's not difficult to get a job if you have those right skill sets. So for me, I would encourage people, if you have and if you want to get yourself skilled and trained on those skill sets that are highly valuable here, not only in the banking sector, but in any of the IT system here in Canada.
Guess what? I just realized the time, and it's 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
We're out of time. But I wanted to do a very quick round and ask one thing that you would like job seekers who are trying to get into the banking industry to do. Just one thing, and we'll go through everybody. So in my case, I'm going to say, listen to these guys. They know what they're talking. They've been there. So, Hakeem, what's the one thing that you recommend people to do?
Research and be extremely clear about the role you want, and just target your search accordingly. You need to improvise and customize your search.
Awesome.
And
Thank
your
you, Hakeem.
method.
And Anu?
Trust in yourself, have confidence, keep doing what you're doing, and you'll get a job one day. It is not a rocket science. It's just your perseverance, your patience, and just that drive in you will get you the job, your dream job.
Awesome. Thank you. Ritesh?
I would say willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn about the Canadian culture and how it works, and be persistent and consistent in what you are doing, and always be assertive in when you communicate.
Awesome. Thank you. And Jay?
Be sincere and never give up.
Be sincere and never give up. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Leo?
Well, do research about different banks, and the beautiful thing about the bank is like they have a very strong mandate on the diversity and inclusion. They do have a lot of programs for, like, for example, for recent grad, for newcomers, for people with disabilities, and for newcomers, visible minorities. So do the research, join those programs, and take advantage the special opportunities for this group.
And that was such a great segue. Thank you so much, Leo, for bringing that up. That was such a great segue into what Destination CEO is doing next. So Destination CEO has decided to celebrate its birthday. Yay, we're going to be 6 years old next week. And to celebrate that, we're going to be having an empowerment week. We are bringing in guests from all different kinds of industries to help you, to give you as much wisdom and guidance as possible. On Monday, we're going to be addressing challenges that women are having. So it's going to be Empowerment Day for women challenges. Second day is the challenges that the Black community is facing. On Wednesday, it's going to be everything about international students, and on Thursday, it's going to be persons with disabilities, persons of color. So like Leo just mentioned, that numerous banks and literally every organization, but specifically the financial organization, the banks, have numerous programs within its organization, within its hiring structure, which is based on diversity and inclusion. So if you haven't joined me yet, follow me, connect with me so that you can be a part of our lunch specials next week, every single day for the Empowerment Week. And yes, we're doing a lot more, but for that, you need to stay tuned. So thank you very much. This is Meena Dolwani from Destination CEO. Thanking you, wishing you all a wonderful evening ahead. And mentors, thank you so much for this absolutely knowledgeable evening. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of you during the Empowerment Week. So thank you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Meena.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.